The postseason is officially here, folks. It's time. The field of 64 is out, and the road to Omaha begins finally as we record here on Thursday afternoon, May 28th. The road to Omaha begins tomorrow for all 64 teams, including the number 2 national seed Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who have had one of the most incredible seasons in college baseball history, certainly one of the best, if not the best, in Georgia Tech baseball history, and it's all under a first-year head coach in James Ramsey. And here to talk all about it is their play-by-play voice, good friend of the program, Colin Lacy. Colin, thanks for joining us. I don't even know where to start with Georgia Tech. There's too much to get into with this team. We were just talking right before the show, and we were just saying how this is basically like a created team in MLB The Show where everybody's 99, your entire lineup, your starting pitchers, your closer, and it's real life. Like, how has it been watching this team? Because it seems unreal.
It's absolutely crazy. Appreciate you having me, first of all. But watching this team, and it's not very often that you see a team that has so high expectations entering this year. I mean, you're a top 5 team at the beginning of the year. Everybody's talking about what this lineup looks like before you even threw a pitch. And then to be able to kind of add to it as you go throughout the season. And I don't think it was possible to have higher expectations than when we started. But I think that's what's coming to fruition when you're the number 2 national seed and hosting a regional here in Atlanta for the first time since 2019.
Yeah, it has to be. And it's crazy to think about because you have the whole send-off for longtime head coach Danny Hall last season. He hands the reins to James Ramsey. Perfect move, obviously. Now hindsight's 2020 from Ryan Alpert. But, I mean, everybody thought it was the right move to hand it off to James Ramsey when he left. They've been proven right. ACC Coach of the Year, just signed an extension this week to keep him on the flats through 2031. Georgia Tech hosting a regional for the 13th time in program history. They're the number 2 national seed, highest ever that this program has achieved, tied with that 2005 team, 48-9. 48-9. Best winning percentage in 106 years at Georgia Tech, 25-5 in the ACC, regular season tournament champs. They went 30 and something at home, 30-4 at home. Like the numbers are wild. And I think when you start with this team, you have to start with the offense. I know the pitching has been great, but the offensive numbers are insane. Let's just go down the list, man, because there's too many guys to talk about as a whole. So I want to give everybody their due. Just to put this offense in perspective, it is the best offense in the BB Core era, which is 2011 to present, by a Power 4 team entering the NCAA tournament. They lead Division I in average, runs, hits, OPS. They're top 5 in walks, doubles, and a program record 125 home runs. So that sets the stage, Colin. Well, before we get into any individual guys, what do you have to say about this offense as a unit?
I think it's a byproduct of what's been building here at Georgia Tech for the last couple of years. And I think we talked towards the end of last year, getting into the postseason, when Georgia Tech was a 2 in the Oxford Regional last year. Felt like Georgia Tech, who won the ACC regular season last year, thought they were going to host, but James Ramsey has talked about it throughout the run this year of, we're not leaving any doubt. We're not putting it in the committee's hands. We're not putting it in anybody else's hands. There's leave no doubt signs all over the place in this ballpark down below. And I think it's just a byproduct of what has been building here for the last couple of years. You look at 7/9 of the lineup, and I know we're not getting too deep into fractions here, but you look at 7 parts of this lineup for Georgia Tech have been together for 3 years at least. Parker Brochus has really burst onto the scene since graduating 2 weeks ago. He's been here for 4 years. And so it's the Carson Kurse, the Drew Burris, the Kent Schmidt that have been here for the last 3 years. And you've seen what they can be. Now it's really coming to fruition of everybody gelling together and really working in a cohesive unit. And you talk about first-year head coach James Ramsey, and I don't know that there's a least first-year acting head coach than James Ramsey, just for what he has done building this program. He's been the associate head coach for the last 4 years and assistant under the last 7 under head coach Danny Hall. And so whenever DH was announcing his retirement, there was only one name that really came across the desk, and it was James Ramsey. And that's the way it should be. And being able to lock him up for 5 years past this now, that Ryan Alpert announced earlier this week, like you mentioned, it shows the commitment that Georgia Tech has to baseball. It shows the commitment that James Ramsey and his family have to Georgia Tech. I mean, his wife, a former cheerleader here at Georgia Tech. And so this is a match made in heaven of James Ramsey, this Georgia Tech team, and it's all really starting to come to fruition now.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you talk about leaving no doubt with this team. It kind of gives me the Ted Lasso vibe of the believe sign. Like, is that in the locker room where they're just slapping that thing as they walk out onto the clubhouse? Is that the situation we have going on?
I don't know if we're going full Ted Lasso here. There is a sign from the clubhouse that leads into the tunnel for the dugout that does say leave no doubt. So
Okay.
you may get a little bit of that, but I don't know if we're going full Ted Lasso just yet.
Well, if all the players come out with mustaches and the sunglasses and a whistle before the regional, you know that they have fully transitioned over to Ted Lasso, and we'll reference back to this podcast. We talked about, before we hopped on the air, you said that Coach Ramsey has said that watching this team take batting practice is uncomfortable. And you hear that and you go, well, sure, any team watching this team take batting practice would go, oh, God. But it's uncomfortable for you guys to watch them take batting practice. Why is that the case?
It's one of those things that you sit here and watch, and even you look at we call it BP Group 1. It's the guys kind of towards the end of the bench that haven't had meaningful at-bats since February, early March, and they are launching balls left and right. And so it's uncomfortable because you're like, there's no way an offense can be this good. And I know that sounds egotistical, but it's not meant that way. It's just uncomfortable watching how not only just hitting bomb after bomb, and there's part of that, but such a professional approach. And I know that's a term that gets overused in college baseball now, of this guy's got an professional approach. It's professional BP, but that's really the case. Guy in, guy out for this Georgia Tech lineup. You've got the first round where they're trying to go the other way. You've got guys bunting early on in their BP rounds. Then you get into swinging for the fences. And so there's so much of a progression. And part of it is what James Ramsey has really instilled in these guys, the mentality of, look, there are some of you that are going to go on to play professional baseball. There are some of you that are not. But no matter what, this program is going to be run like a professional organization that James Ramsey and a lot of the staff have been a part of in their time, not only playing, but on the coaching ranks as well. And so it's fun to watch this team, how determined they are. And part of it is last year they started writing all of the team goals on the mirror in the locker room in the clubhouse. And at the top for the last 2 years, it says, get Georgia Tech back to Omaha. And that's been the mindset for this team. It was last year, but it only amplifies it even more because you have some of these guys that have put the blood, sweat, and tears in now for 3 years, that you're coming up on the last 5, 6, 7, hopefully more games in their Georgia Tech careers. And so you're really starting to see a lot of it kind of go pedal to the metal, and it starts with the BP. And I know that sounds cliche as all get out, but you watch it day in and day out, and you're like, these guys are living a cliche.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. And to put some more things in perspective here, like Georgia Tech won 13 of its 14 weekend series. They lead the nation with 22 quad one wins. They went 22-5. No other team had more than 18 quad one victories. They're the only team in the nation to average double-digit runs per game. They scored 10 or more runs in 33 of their 57 games, and they're outscoring opponents by 342 runs. Like, that's ridiculous. It's the largest in program history. And I know I'm not even a Georgia Tech fan. I just love baseball, and you obviously are, but like looking at this stuff, I'm like, how is this team real? And we're going to get into how they are real in just a second. Colin Lacy joining us here on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. If you want to follow Colin at C_Lacy16, that's Lacy. There is no E in there. It doesn't need to be there. Lacy.
Both of my names really mess people up because they want to put an extra L in Colin and an E in Lacy. So I just try to simplify it.
Yeah. So at C_Lacy16 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. He and Wiley Ballard will be on the call for all of Georgia Tech's postseason run, which we certainly hope takes them to the Men's College World Series. Spoiler alert, Colin, I have you guys in the finals.
Love that. See, you're becoming a Georgia Tech fan.
I just like good baseball teams, man. I just do. Anyways, Georgia Tech Colin and Wiley will be on the call starting noon tomorrow when they face off with Illinois Chicago, the 4 seed in the Atlanta Regional, followed at 5 p.m. by Oklahoma and the Citadel, game 2 of the Atlanta Regional, Georgia Tech and UIC leading things off. Before we get anything further, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor of the podcast, Home Field Apparel, sponsoring over 200 colleges and universities. They have quality, thoughtful apparel for all these universities, including the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. So get to homefieldapparel.com, get your GT gear, get whatever gear of whatever team you support. Today, we're hyping up Georgia Tech. Go to homefieldapparel.com, get your Yellow Jackets gear, get out to the ballpark in Atlanta, and go support Georgia Tech as they make a run to the Men's College World Series, hosting a regional, could host their first Super since 2006 if they win this Atlanta regional, which I think they will. A lot of people think they will. We'll see what happens. Got to play the games. And then go to homefieldapparel.com and support them on their way to Omaha. Thank you to Homefield all season long. Been a tremendous sponsor. Also, we've been talking about bracket predictions, my own predictions. If you want, go to the D1 Bracket Challenge. That's D1 Baseball's Bracket Challenge. We have a group. I've posted it on social media. If you want to follow it, at 3D Dingers, you can submit your bracket into the bracket challenge, and the winner will get a non-monetary prize to be announced at a later date. But we already have, I think, 15 or so submissions in there, so competition's heating up. Colin, you're welcome to submit as well. You follow me on social media, so submit your bracket there now. Maybe you'll pick Georgia Tech. Maybe you won't. You probably should. But anyways, go to the D1 Baseball Bracket Challenge and submit your bracket challenge now. And one more thing that Georgia Tech is going to be a part of before we get back to hearing Colin talk about this incredible team. The Regional Rundown is back for the third year in a row. The NCAA Baseball Regional Rundown, in partnership with the NCAA and Westwood One, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets feed will be on the channel. You will be hearing Colin and Wiley all weekend long as Georgia Tech looks to advance out of the Atlanta Regional. We've got 46 of the 49 available teams with radio. We've got all those feeds. We've got the Women's College World Series, courtesy of Westwood One. Download the Varsity Network app starting 1 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, May 29th, going till, we say midnight, but it'd probably be closer to 11. We'll see what happens. Depends on what's going on. 1 p.m. to 11-ish all weekend long, Monday TBD, but we'll have some coverage at some point. Join myself, Tim Bickford, Luke Hallett, Paul Roper, Michael Coulter, Trip Hurd, Phil Brame, bunch of these guys will all be hosting, board hopping, producing. Can't wait. Always a fun time. I can't wait to hear you and Wiley on the call of that one. All right. Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty with the Georgia Tech. Let's start with the offense because we've talked about it a little bit. 9 guys with 9 or more home runs, led by Ryan Zuckerman. 23 homers, the second most in the ACC. The ACC tournament MVP, 350 average, 76 RBIs. That guy is just a bombs-away machine. Like, I watch every time I see him, he's hitting a mammoth home run. And you go, does this guy do anything else? Like, I don't know.
And the thing is, he does. It's so much fun to watch the progression that he has made. Coming over, transferring from Pitt after 2 years under Mike Bell and company up at Pitt, he comes into Georgia Tech, and everybody kind of knew around the ACC that at Pitt, Zuckerman was a lot more of a home run strikeout guy. It's what it was. He was a phenomenal part in the middle of the order for Pitt the last 2 years, and you're like, okay, how does he fit into this James Ramsey offense? Because obviously Georgia Tech is going to mash, but then trying to figure out how do you cut down on the strikeout. And he has done a phenomenal job this year. And obviously you're going to get a little bit of strikeout in Zuckerman's game, but there have been so much, and James Ramsey talked about it a lot in the preseason and has gone throughout the year, of the pitch recognition, the plate discipline, of being able to realize what are the pitches I need to just spit on. Even if they're strikes, it's a competitive at bat each and every time with Zuckerman. And so that's the biggest part. And then, oh, by the way, he's turned into possibly the best defensive third baseman in the ACC, which nobody saw coming. He's got a rifle for an arm, and just a phenomenal job that Coach Ramsey, Josh Schulman, our first base coach that handles the infielders, both of them have put in an enormous amount of work with Ryan Zuckerman, and credit to Zuck. And he's pretty open about it of, look, there are times that you just kind of mailed it in last year, but there is no mailing it in with this lineup up and down. And you look at Ryan Zuckerman was one of the best ACC hitters last year, and he's hitting 7th in this lineup most days. 7th.
Yeah.
And so it's just so much fun to watch what he's become, just an enormous presence in that lineup, presence in the clubhouse, because you've got 2 different transfers into this program. James Ramsey has talked about it so much about how this program is going to be built with high school talent. You've got a couple of transfers in this lineup with Ryan Zuckerman, Jaron Advincula, coincidentally, both of them coming from ACC schools, Advincula coming from Cal. But a big part of what Ramsey has talked about, that we're not going to get the best players necessarily in the transfer portal. They've got to be good fits in our clubhouse. And so there are times where transfer portal guys won't make quote unquote official visits and won't get around the guys that are in this clubhouse already. But that was an enormous part of what Ramsey was doing in the recruiting process for these two. I mean, Jaron Avincula could have gone to Tennessee. There's a lot of different places with big names that Avincula could have gone, but chose to come to Georgia Tech. Ryan Zuckerman, same thing. And so it's not only the home run and strikeout swing from Zuckerman, getting back to your original question, but just so much of a well-rounded ball player, but just a phenomenal human being as well.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it as hearing you talk about him. And you mentioned Jared Avincula. He might be the best pure hitter in college baseball. Like the numbers back it up. Third best in Division I, best in Power 4 with a 431 average, 9 homers, 63 RBIs. He leads the nation with 103 hits, 16 of 18 in steals. That is the epitome of a guy who can literally do it all, and he's the linchpin of this Georgia Tech offense.
Yeah, the first guy in Georgia Tech history to come in with 100 hits since 2005. And there have been some pretty good hitters that come through this program in that time. And so whenever you look at what Advincula is able to do, just such a never satisfied mentality of you'll have a weekend where he goes 7 for 8 in the first 2 games and then is still trying to work on something and perfect something in the cages on a Sunday BP. And so it's the never perfected mentality and always working, always grinding. And again, another guy that has fit into this clubhouse seamlessly. Being around this team, you would think he's been here, one of the guys that has been here 3 and 4 years. And so just so much fun to watch. Really good second base on the defensive side, but can't be more excited about what Ja can be able to do in the postseason for Georgia Tech.
Is that what they call him? Ja? That's his nickname?
Ja. J-A.
All right.
Ja.
I like it. Okay. I'm going to drop that on the rundown when he does something cool and we have it live with you and Wiley on the call. All right. Let's talk about the man who's made the headlines for Georgia Tech the last 3 years. Not to discount Von Lackey or Ja or Zuckerman, whoever. Drew Burress. Like that's been the guy. Ever since his freshman year, he stepped on campus, and it's Drew Burress this, Drew Burress that, Drew Burress home run, Drew Burress home run king. He finally passed Jason Varitek. He got that out of the way. Like we can stop talking about that because he finally did it. We all knew it was going to happen, and all the talk's been Drew Burress, potential number 1 overall draft pick. That's still out there. I think he's actually kind of lost a little bit of that lead to his teammate Von Lackey. We'll get to him in a second, but talk to me about watching Drew this year, because I think it's been a different Drew Burress in the sense that it's not just Drew Burress and everybody else. It's Drew amongst this collection of really good hitters that actually can kind of unlock something different in Drew's game because he's not the one who has to deliver every single time.
The piece that Drew Burress doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves for is he makes everybody around him better. Scott Strickland, who's the former coach at Georgia, now an assistant here at Georgia Tech for a second stint, he talks about all the time that when you have your leader as Drew Burress and somebody like him that is first to the ballpark and all the cliches that you want to throw around it, he is the guy that when your leader is the hardest worker, it is going to make the entire team better. And that is exactly what Drew Burress is. He is the hardest worker that I've ever seen. I tell people all the time, I've done college baseball at different levels for the better part of 15 years now. I've never been more convinced that somebody's going to play big league ball, not just pro ball. I've never been more convinced that somebody's going to make the big leagues of anybody I've ever seen. And Drew Burress is baseball through and through. His dad has run youth tournaments his entire life, and so baseball is in his blood. He is all about it. The thing that you look at with Burress, no matter what is happening, whether he's 1 home run away from going ahead of Jason Varitek, whether it's a hot streak, it's a cold streak, he's the same guy. He's the first one at the top step of the dugout every single time. It's all of the good cliches that you hear about players across the country, all embody Drew Burress. And I go back to middle of the ACC schedule. There was a stretch where Burress went 1 for 29, which doesn't seem possible with him. He goes 1 for 29, average gets down into the 270s, I think, and you wouldn't know that he was hitting 500. Since then, he has hit right around 500. And so it's been so much fun to watch. And obviously, Von Lackey has kind of leapt ahead as far as what the mock drafts show. But I had a scout in the middle of that 1 for 29 stretch. Still about a month left to go of the season. And I had a scout tell me that he could not get another hit the rest of his college career and he's still going in the first round. That's the kind of makeup that he has, the family dynamic he has. And I know I'm going to say all of these guys are phenomenal human beings because they are, but just an absolute pro's pro. Whenever you come to the ballpark, he is the guy that you want your kids looking up to. Whenever there's a 6-7-year-old coming to the ballpark, that's the guy that you want them watching whenever they get to the ballpark to the time they leave.
Wow. That's the highest compliment right there. Talking about the personality of a player at the end of the answer. And you brought up the fact that James Ramsey wants this team to have that kind of culture, and he wants those kind of players. That's why he's not necessarily always just going into the portal and getting the best talent. He's finding the right culture fit for Georgia Tech, and it's blossomed into this remarkable season for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets that they certainly hope ends in a dog pile in Omaha towards the middle to the end of June. All right, we brought up Von Lackey, so let's get into him as well. As we've seen the draft boards, like, he's ahead of Drew Burress right now, but like they're both really, really good. So whoever gets whoever is going to be very fortunate to have them in their system and in on their team at a big league level one day. But Von Lackey this year, 4.10 average, 18 bombs, 75 RBIs, fifth in Division I in OPS. He leads the NCAA tournament field, everybody in the tournament, in on-base percentage and runs scored. And oh, by the way, he's the ACC defensive player of the year. So you talk about Zuck playing a good third. You talk about Advincula playing a good second. You talk about Burris playing a good outfield. It's Von Lackey who wins the defensive player of the year. Like, this guy just beat them all and won the ACC's coveted fielding award.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch what Von Lackey has turned into. He's one of those guys that's been here for 3 years. He's always had the glove. He's always had the defense. It's freshman year back in 2024, whenever Georgia Tech went to Georgia in the Athens Regional. You knew what the defense was. The back half of that season, he worked his way into the lineup because of his defense. He only hit about 210 that year in his freshman season, started the entire back half of the regular season and through the postseason run. Then his sophomore year last year, you saw the bat really come around. Hit 350, 360, somewhere in that ballpark, but it was a lot of singles. I was petitioning the NCAA that any just little humpback liner over the second baseman's head, we rename that a Lackey. That's what he was last year, but the defense was still there. This year, he's made a huge concerted effort of hitting the ball in the air. And you've seen it turn the power into a lot of home runs, a lot of doubles, and just the complete overall hitter that he has turned into. It's so much fun to watch Von Lackey each and every day. James Ramsey nailed it a couple of weeks ago whenever he said Von Lackey plays the game with a childlike mentality. The fact that he is so happy to come to the ballpark every day. You never see him without a smile on his face. And, oh, by the way, he may be one of the best, if not the best player in college baseball. As a former catcher, I love to watch what he does behind the plate. Yeah. Absolutely love it. There was a play against Duke a couple of weeks ago where there was a runner on first. He picks a ball out of the dirt as clean as it gets, threw a back pick over to first, and nailed the guy by about a step and a half. Like, it's just highlight play after highlight play, and he makes it look so effortless. It's so much fun to watch what he's able to do. But to me, the progression that he has made from his freshman year all the way to now, if you would have told somebody during his freshman season that he would be talked about as the top 2, 3, 4 pick overall in the draft, I don't know that anybody would have believed you. But they knew that with the mentality of what Von Lackey can be, there's nobody going to tell that kid no. And so it's so much fun to see what he's turned into. And hopefully he gets to put that on the national stage over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's basically, you tell me I can't do something, it just makes me want to go do it more. Correct. And that sounds like that's what inspires Von Lackey. That's awesome. I cannot wait to reference a line drive over the second baseman's head as a Lackey. That's perfect. I love that so much. As Colin Lacy joins us here on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers ahead of the Atlanta Regional, where Georgia Tech will start off facing against Illinois and Chicago. Let's take a reprieve from talking Georgia Tech. Let's preview the rest of these teams in the Atlanta Regional. By the way, should mention, those 4 guys, along with Carson Kearse, all started all 57 games for Georgia Tech. So, like, correct. The consistency of this offense is because of the fact that you have the same 5 dudes that started all 57 games. Every single one didn't take one off, didn't have a day off, didn't get hurt. Like, it does matter to stay healthy, and it does matter to be as consistent as Georgia Tech is. And you've got Advincula, Lackey, and Burris, all as Golden Spike semifinalists. All right, so dipping into, let's start with Illinois Chicago, because that's who Georgia Tech will have first. the biggest one that stands out is the guy that's going to be on the bump facing off against, I'm assuming, Tate McKee for Georgia Tech. I haven't looked at the announced rotation for this weekend, but I'm assuming McKee's going tomorrow, and Mason Lay will be going for Illinois Chicago, who has been on a real heater. 4 quality starts in a row, a ERA of 1 in those last 4 starts, 29 Ks to 27 innings. He leads the team in innings, first among weekend arms in ERA, whip, wins, batting average against. Like, they're going to throw their best at you guys, and it's going to be an uphill battle.
And it's something that James Ramsey has talked about virtually every midweek, that you're going to get these quote-unquote lesser conference teams, but there's a lot of these guys that have dudes. You think back to the 2024 regional when Georgia Tech was in Athens. First game that Georgia Tech played was UNC Wilmington, and they had a guy that absolutely shut Georgia Tech down, and then before you can think about it, Georgia Tech is playing in the 0-1 game instead of the 1-0 game. And so there's the thing about this team is it's not 56-0. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there are the weaknesses to it, but the mentality of it is not one of them. It's not a team that's going to overlook somebody like a Illinois Chicago that a lot of these guys probably didn't even know what conference they played in. But it's a UIC team that behind Mason Lay, a lot of things can happen on a baseball diamond. And so he's really impressive diving into him, coming in from Rocky Valley Community College. He's somebody that just pitches, man. And being able to work around different pitches, work both sides of the plate, it's really going to be a tough test for Georgia Tech to work against him tomorrow.
Yeah, and it certainly will be. And for those who don't know where UIC is, they only just won the Missouri Valley Conference regular season and conference tournament. So, like, don't sleep on them. I don't need to go back very far in Missouri Valley to reference a little team called Indiana State. We saw what they all did. They should have been hosting a super. The reason they weren't a few years ago is because of the Special Olympics being held in Terre Haute. We understand that. And then it went to TCU, and you know what happened from there. But anyways,
and look,
Missouri Valley.
You look at the Missouri Valley Conference, it's where Murray State comes from. And it's a Murray State team that gets all the way to Omaha. And, oh, by the way, had to knock off Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, and Duke to get there. And so it's a conference that I promise you is not going to be overlooked here in Atlanta.
It can't be. I mean, it can't be after what I forget the head coach's name, Dan Skirka. Dan Skirka, yeah. That's it. Yeah, can't be overlooked what Dan Skirka has done with the Racers. I mean, that was a remarkable run, especially when they had to win the Super twice at Duke.
Yeah,
like the first one was reversed and they had to do it again. And they're like, no problem, we got it. That closer whose name is actually escaping me was unreal for them last year. All right, so you've got 2 other teams in this regional. You've got Oklahoma, an at-large out of the SEC after finishing 11th in the conference, going 1 and done in the SEC tournament. And then you've got the Citadel, who works their way into the field, first regional since 2010, winning 8 in a row to win the SoCon tourney down in Greenville, South Carolina. They scored 60 runs in those 5 games in the SoCon tournament. Like, for the Citadel, it's interesting because I look at them and you go, okay, pitching and defense is the name of the game for the Bulldogs, but their offense is so hot right now. Like, this is one of those teams where it kind of reminds me of, and this may be a bit of a stretch, but this is where I go, 3-seeded Ole Miss that won it all.
Ooh, yeah.
Like a few years back when they were the last team into the field. Like, the Citadel wasn't that, but like Ole Miss had the pitching and their offense just got ridiculously hot and they went on to win the whole thing. Now, Citadel and Ole Miss, obviously 2 very different programs, different conferences, etc. I'm not trying to say they're the same team, but I get that same kind of feeling that this Citadel team is one that's going to get overlooked, but shouldn't be.
Yeah, and being a former Georgia Southern guy, know the Citadel very well from the old SoCon days, and it's a program that's got a lot of history over in Charleston. And obviously, pitching is, like you mentioned, the name of the game, only allowing less than 5 runs a game throughout the regular season. But it's a team that those teams scare me. Whenever a team has to, I think 5 games in 5 days to be able to win the SoCon, it's just a really impressive team. And it's a SoCon that was a pretty hot conference this year. I think number 7 in the conference RPIs. And a lot of people were flabbergasted that Mercer, who, oh, by the way, 2 weeks ago, the last midweek, knocked off Georgia Tech.
Don't get me started.
It's amazing to me how a second SoCon team didn't get in. But this is the Citadel kind of carrying the torch for the SoCon. And so it's a sneaky, tough regional. with the 3 and the 4, especially with the Citadel and UIC, 2 teams that I think get overlooked a good bit in the grand scheme of the national scale of college baseball. But it's 2 teams that, at least the Citadel, with really good history, and both teams playing really good baseball as of late.
On a side note, I feel for Mercer tremendously. That team, as you mentioned, beat Georgia Tech 12-9. That's one of the 9 losses that James Ramsey's squad has this year is to Mercer. They lost 12-9 in a midweek. And yes, midweeks are weird and midweeks do matter, but Mercer had an RPI in the 30s. Their non-conference strength of schedule was better, and it wasn't great, but it was better than NC State's, who got in. And I know Elliot Avent's retiring. Here's a gift from the committee. Congratulations. But my heart hurts for the Mercer Bears, man. That is a ridiculous oversight that they were let into the tournament. And some people are saying, well, the Sun Belt got 5 teams in. I think all 5 of those teams in the Sun Belt deserve to be in. I don't think NC State deserved to be in. I don't think Kentucky deserved to be in. But we all know why they got in, and we know why Mercer didn't. We don't need to get into that. That's a whole nother hour-long podcast that you and I could have at another time, or just call on the phone and talk to each other. We're talking Georgia Tech right now. We're not focused on Mercer, unfortunately, because they're not in the tournament. All right, the last team we have not talked about is the Oklahoma Sooners. They have a couple of strengths. Number one, and I'm sure it's all over their game notes. I'm sure you've seen this. Their SID, Patrick Dunn, does a great job. They run like heck. Yeah. I mean, all over the diamond. All they want to do, they call it creating chaos, but it's CHAOUS with the OU for Oklahoma. That's their mantra. Kind of like you with Lacy and no E and one L in Colin. They do things differently, but it's okay. We love them for it. So they run a lot. They have some sneaky pop. Dayton LaChance is kind of on a heater of all heaters, 12 homers in his last 21 games. But their starting pitchers, their 1-2 is so good. Camden Johnson and LJ Mercurius. When they're off, they're off. But when they're on, it's really hard to beat those guys. And I think Oklahoma's another one of those teams where folks are going to look at the result, look at the fact that they went 1 and done in Hoover, and go, Oklahoma's fine. They're not fine. If they're on, they are really tough out.
You look at those 2 1-2 punch in the starting rotation, and it makes you scratch your head how Oklahoma finished with the record that they did at 32-21. 2 games below 500 in the SEC. And I get that it goes to the strength of the SEC and all of that. But when you look at that 1-2 punch, you're like, how did you lose a weekend? It makes you think back to and I know it's not to this point, but when they're on, they look like the Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter at Vanderbilt the last in the last few years. And so it's going to be a fun team. And it's one that it's going to be a fun matchup. We talked about what Von Lackey has been behind the plate. He's got 5 pickoffs at first base earlier on this season, but a team that likes to run against a really good defensive catcher. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch what this team is able to do against Georgia Tech. And it's a Georgia Tech team that at the beginning of the season, in the first half of the season, gave up a lot of stolen bases. The back half, they haven't, partially because what Von Lackey and Drew Rogers have done behind the plate. But this pitching staff has made a very concerted effort to be able to hold guys much better on base than what we did at the beginning of the season. And so it's going to be a fun matchup to watch. You think back to what Georgia Tech was able to do against Boston College. And obviously Boston College, a little bit different of a team, but with Todd Interdonato coming over from Wofford to BC, Birdball loves to run. But Georgia Tech was able to shut them down all weekend. They outscored Boston College by, I think, 38 when it was all said and done over a 3-game stretch because they didn't let the leadoff man on base. I think the leadoff man all weekend got on base like 3 times in a 3-game series. And so it was a very concerted effort. And so being able to do that the last weekend of the regular season, I think helps Georgia Tech coming into this regional because you've got different pickoffs. You got different things already in place that was for Birdball for Boston College, but it's something that can also apply to trying to keep Oklahoma at bay on the base paths as well. And so I think that's a little bit of a side note for what Georgia Tech is able to do and kind of a hidden in the weeds type deal in that matchup, should we get it coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, and that matchup would be for the first time in the postseason since the 1994 Men's College World Series championship game. Oklahoma won that one, oh, by the way. So I wasn't even born when that matchup happened. That's just dating myself there. But
I was about a month away from being born.
So was I. Wait a minute. When's your birthday?
July
Yeah, what day?
18th.
Oh, I'm July 12th. I'm 6 days older than you.
Look at
Oh, how about that? Discovering fun facts on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. We're going to get into more of the fun facts about Georgia Tech, including why Von Lackey is such a vaunted catcher behind the plate after we take a break here on 3D.
Which schools will take home the prestigious Learfield Directors Cup for the top college athletic programs for the 2025-26 college athletic season? Check out the criteria and follow the year-long standings of your favorite team at L Directors Cup on the X platform or online at thedirectorscup.com. Trophies will be awarded in June 2026 to the winning institutions in all college sports divisions. The Learfield Directors Cup, powered by NACDA, the crowning achievement in college athletics.
What if you could throw MLB-style pitches anywhere without breaking anything? Introducing the Borgoball. Designed by former Division I players and a small family-run brand, this foam baseball is safe to use anywhere, including indoors. Featuring raised seams that mimic a real baseball, you can feel and see the spin of a 12-6 curveball and a sweeping slider, or watch a sinker plummet to the plate. Time to turn your space into a mini baseball diamond. 4-packs are available for just $20, but the family fun backyard memories, those are priceless. Use code BORGO10 for 10% off your first order at backyardbaseballbros.com today.
All right, back on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. David Kahn, Colin Lacy, the play-by-play voice of Georgia Tech baseball, is with us as we preview the Atlanta Regional and the number 2 seed Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Just before the break, we discovered that Colin and I are 6 days apart in terms of age. We also discovered we're talking about the fact that Von Lackey is a tremendous catcher. We all knew that. But Colin was getting into the weeds on how he's really good at keeping runners where they are, which will matter if they play Oklahoma, who stresses pitchers out on the base paths. And you mentioned the fact that one of the keys is, well, they don't let the leadoff man on. Well, that's an easy key. You don't let guys on base, they can't steal against you. When they get on base, what makes Von Lackey such an elite catcher in terms of throwing guys out and also keeping them close to first by having a pickoff move?
I think a big part of it is what he has worked on with Scott Strickland, who kind of handles the catching side of it, a good catcher in his own right back in his playing days. But it's just something about one of the things that they have really worked on the last 2 years is making the first thing, making sure you secure the catch before you can do anything with it. Because if you don't catch it, you can't do anything with it. And so that's one of the big things that you would get sped up a little bit as a young catcher with Vaughn, of trying to be too fine, throwing somebody out at first, back picking somebody out, and you don't have the ball. And so one of the big things that they've made a concerted effort on is slow the game down, slow everything down, make the catch, and then we can decide what we're going to do with it. And Vaughn has been so good. He works every single day. Before BP, they run through it. It's almost like the viral video that came out with Ron Washington going through infield drills with the Braves. It's a very similar regiment that Von Lackey and our catchers have with Scott Strickland of receiving the ball. And I know with ABS and Major League Baseball, receiving is a dying art that hurts my heart. But it's a receiving drill. It's a picking balls out of the dirt. It's not necessarily having to drop and block the entire time, which obviously he's pretty good at too. But if you're able to pick it out of the dirt and have confidence in the backhand of able to do it, then you've got a lot of options that you can use at your disposal. And obviously the arm is really good. He's probably a 173, 175, somewhere in that ballpark with the pop time on average, but just a really good arm, but just a really good feel of what's happening around a game. And I think that's something that's come with age, and it's something that's come on with being a starting catcher for 3 years in the ACC.
You know, it's interesting you talk about slowing things down, and I feel like talking about the Georgia Tech offense earlier, everything has to be slowed down for those guys. That ball must look like a freaking beach ball when it's coming to them at the plate by how they're hitting, but it makes sense too if you're a catcher, and the game can speed up on you, especially when there's those quick trigger decisions. Like you said, Lackey's got a 173, 175 pop time. That's not a lot of time. And also, these pitchers are coming in here like they're humming. We're going to talk about these guys in a second, from Tate McKee, Carson Ballard, Jackson Blakely, Mason Patel, a whole bunch of other guys. I mean, they're throwing gas. So, like, it's not a lot of time for him to react. So if you can slow that down, that will certainly benefit you in the long run. Let's shift from one side of the battery to the other. Let's go to the pitching staff, which I don't want to say it's overlooked, at Georgia Tech, but it may just be glossed over because of how good the offense is. But this pitching staff led the ACC in ERA in league play at 4.36. You got 3 bona fide starters in the guys I just mentioned, Blakely, Ballard, and McKee. And then you got a guy at the back end in Mason Patel, who is an elite closer. Like, I know the numbers don't necessarily bear that out, just 7 saves in 37 innings with 28 Ks, but I watched that guy pitch for a few years. He is one of the best, and Georgia Tech is certainly, kissing their lucky stars that they have him at the back end of the bullpen. But let's start with the rotation. Let's go Tate McKee first, because he's the mainstay guy that's been the series opening dude. He's the only Division I pitcher that started every series opener for the same team in each of the last 2 seasons, 31 straight series opening starts, and Georgia Tech's 25-6. So, like, without him, Georgia Tech doesn't have the season they're having because he gets them off on the right foot, right?
And he's got really good stuff. It came to light in the last couple of weeks that he has gone back to throwing his slider the way he had the last few years, and they call it kind of a gyro slider type deal. But he's somebody that dabbles with different pitches, and he knows what works, what doesn't. And it's not necessarily the fully blow you away type stuff, but he knows how to pitch. And it's so much fun to watch him just being the Friday night guy, game 1 starter, whatever you want to call it. It means something to Tate. And so being that guy, kind of getting everybody off on the right foot in a weekend series really means something to Tate. And it's something that he worked for to be able to start doing beginning of last year, because in his exit meeting or the end of the season meeting the year prior, that's one of the things he said, I want to be the Friday guy. And he worked his tail off in the offseason prior to last year and got that, and hasn't let the bull go by the horns yet. And so it's such a great dude to be around this team, and kind of sets the tone of the attack mentality that Matt Taylor, Jason Richmond on the pitching staff have been able to instill into this group of, you got to attack the zone to get people out. And that's exactly what Tate McKee really tries to set the tone with.
Yeah, he certainly has left no doubt over the last 2 seasons. 90 strikeouts this year, 8-1, 71 innings, 4.06 ERA. I asked you earlier, I never even gave you a chance to answer. Is he starting tomorrow against UIC?
It hasn't come out yet. So
okay.
There's a couple of different ways that you can go about it. The good thing with having 3 starters and the way kind of the pitching schedule worked out last week, the last probably half of the regular season, it had been Tate on Friday or game 1. Game 2 went to Carson Ballard, and then Jackson Blakely went game 3. But Matt Taylor and company have said Jackson Blakely is probably stuff-wise the best guy. And so you've had some flexibility in that rotation with Georgia Tech. So I wouldn't be shocked if you saw Tate McKee, obviously. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw somebody like a Carson Ballard. I don't know where the mind is, and trying to figure out what that looks like going forward over the next 24 hours or so.
Yeah, teams kind of approach this in one of 2 ways. You either pitch on, which means you follow your normal rotation, or you pitch off as the 1 seed facing the 4 seed. We've already talked about the fact that UIC is going to throw their best guy. Mason Lay is no doubt getting the ball at noon tomorrow on the flats against Georgia Tech. And so the question is, who will they throw? I don't know if Georgia Tech can call it pitching off, though, because you just talked about the fact that their number 3 guy, their Sunday guy, Jackson Blakely, might have the best stuff on this team. 3rd lowest ERA in the ACC, 2.79. He leads the team, 8-1, 64 Ks and 61 in the 3rd. Like, if that's pitching off, sign me up, man. I'll take it all day. Like, that guy's awesome.
Yeah, and the fun part about watching this rotation, you've got 3 truly different guys. You've got the Jackson Blakely, who has the stuff, 94, 95 with the fastball, really good breaking pitches. You've got Tate McKee that we just talked about, really knows how to pitch. And then somebody like a Carson Ballard, who will throw 8 different pitches at you, including a knuckleball, which is pretty phenomenal if you ask me.
That's awesome.
But just being able to work through a lineup and grind through at bats. It's fun to watch what all 3 guys bring, because it's so different and kind of contrary to what you see a lot in college baseball now, that everybody thinks that you have to throw 96 and have a wicked slider. You don't have to do that to get guys out. And so it's really interesting to see what this looks like as far as the pitching plan going forward. But any of the 3, you feel comfortable with those guys on the mound, because 2 of the 3 have been a big part of what Georgia Tech has done pitching-wise for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, Carson Ballard's numbers, we didn't talk about him yet. 7-0 at 3.46 ERA, 41 Ks, 41 2/3 innings pitched. So you add those up, that is 23-2 with your starting rotation. I'm going to take that. And then you've got Mason Patel, third year at Georgia Tech, coming off an All-American season in the back end of that bullpen. And then he puts up just a casual 4-0 record, ERA under 3, 7 saves in 37 innings, and 28 Ks. Like, this guy is the mark of consistency, and that's what you need in the back end of that bullpen, especially in the postseason when Mason's going to be called upon for 6, maybe 9-out saves sometimes as Georgia Tech gets deeper into this tournament.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Matt Taylor, pitching coach for Georgia Tech, has kind of attacked what the bullpen looks like, especially this year. You've got a lot of depth, and so you've got a little bit more flexibility than you've had in years past. But he has said we're not necessarily defining roles, and Patel is probably our bullpen ace, but he won't call him a closer just because of the fact of if you've got the heart of the order for whatever team you're going up against in a 1-0 game in the 6th inning, that's when you'll see Patel. If it's the 4th inning and the starter's struggling, that's when you'll see Patel. And obviously he can go 3 and 4 innings. You've seen that time and time again over the last couple of years for Georgia Tech, where if everything shakes out like everybody had the plan to, Patel is probably the guy that's getting the final 3 outs, but they are not averse of any stretch of throwing him in a game in the 5th inning to get 3, 6, 9, 12 outs. Whenever it's the kind of crucial part of the game that could be the tipping point. You saw that on Sunday in the ACC title game. He finished the final 3 outs, but the day before you saw him come in the 6th inning whenever he had a close ball game, and that him giving you 3 innings was what got you the comeback victory. And so it's really fun to see how the mix and matching of what this bullpen has been, and now it kind of goes to, again, what's been building over the last few years, to where now you feel comfortable with 5, 6, even 7 guys in that Georgia Tech bullpen getting meaningful outs, whereas in years past it was 2, 3 maybe. And so the depth has allowed you to be a little bit more flexible with what you're able to do, especially with Patel.
Yeah, the depth is certainly very important, especially when it comes to the pitching staff when you get into the postseason, because you never know what kind of situations you're going to be in. We could have rain. Pitchers could get burned early. You have no idea, especially with the way that regionals are, where you might have to play 5 games in 4 days.
Yeah.
If you lose one, obviously the goal is to go 3-0, but you never know. Super regionals is a 3-game series, and then Omaha you get a day off every other time, but it's still a lot, and you could play long games, and who knows, and all this other stuff. So having that depth in the pitching rotation is certainly important. Before we get into some quick hitters, who are we not talking about on this Georgia Tech team that we should be focused on this weekend and into the postseason?
Oh, man. I think one of the big ones that jumps out is Parker Brocious. He's somebody that coming into his graduation weekend against Duke 3 weeks ago now, he had 6 home runs. He's got 8 home runs over the last 3 weeks. And so he's somebody that he'll be in the 9 spot. He'll be in left field for Georgia Tech, and somebody that has been in this program for 4 years, graduated again from Georgia Tech a couple of weeks ago, and just an unbelievable spark to this offense. He's somebody that you talk about recruiting stories and what James Ramsey is bringing in. Parker's dad, Todd Brocious, was a big Florida State fan growing up. And so when Parker was small, he would take Parker down to Dick Howser Stadium to see Florida State games when James Ramsey was playing. One day, Parker got a ball signed by Ramsey when Ramsey was playing at Florida State. Ramsey signed it, put a Bible verse underneath it, and then fast forward about 15 years, Parker's getting recruited by James Ramsey, and he's like, hey, can you turn this phone call into a FaceTime? I want to show you something. And Parker had the baseball that James Ramsey had signed when he was a Florida State Seminole still in his bedroom. And so it's those kind of things that being around this team, you get to get in on a little bit. But Parker is somebody that has given a huge shot in the arm for this Georgia Tech team. Always been a really good defender. He was an opening day starter each of the last 2 years, had kind of taken a bench role more this year with the offense the way it had been. He just had 10, 11 guys for 9 spots. And so he was kind of the odd man out with that. You would see him as a defensive replacement, really good speed for Parker. But you've really seen him come to his own, getting back into the lineup the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, and what a phenomenal story that he kept that baseball, and then he's getting recruited by the guy who signed it for him. That's fantastic. Speaking of baseballs, I have in my hand here. This is the Borgoball. Colin, have you seen this? Has this made its way to the flats yet?
I haven't seen it, but that's phenomenal.
Okay, so this is called the Borgoball. It's made by our friends at the Backyard Baseball Bros. Go to backyardbaseballbros.com. 4-pack of these is just $20, $19.99 in fact. Save a penny. For these, they have baseballs, softballs. They have a strike zone. They have a Borgo bat. They're a sponsor of the pod. We love our friends, the Borgogno brothers. They're a baseball family. They call themselves the Backyard Baseball Bros, and their patented product that they made to start is called the Borgoball. It's got raised seams. You can see it right here on the camera as I'm showing it to you.
That.
So you can mimic the feel of a real baseball. And so they are a sponsor of the podcast. It's a great thing. You can throw this stuff, and it's foam, so you can throw it indoors, and you don't break anything. So you could bring this into the Georgia Tech locker room, and you could be like, "Hey guys, I'm going to show you how I used to catch." And you'd be like, "Von Lackey, let me show you something." And you catch the ball, and then you whip it back at Drew Burris, and it won't hurt Drew Burris. I promise.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But
no,
heck, I'm getting on that for my kids.
Yeah, 4-pack for just $20. I'm telling you, it's a great stocking stuffer for the holidays. Hey, listen, tell them Dad wants some for his birthday coming up in a couple months. Here you go, and then you can play with them with your kids. It's fantastic. They sponsor something on the show we call the moment that delivered, the Borgoball moment that delivered. There has been a lot of moments that have delivered for Georgia Tech this season, but I'm going to ask you to pick a singular moment that stands out to you from the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets 2026 season that has delivered the most for you.
Oh man,
it's a tough question. Yeah, it is a tough question. That's why we wait till the end, because you think you're on the exit ramp of this interview, and I'm like, nope, time to think.
I think we're bringing this plane down to land, and we hit turbulence. Yeah. I think the one that probably sticks out to a lot of people is the game against Georgia back April 21st, I think it was, somewhere around there. Okay. But you're playing it at Truist Park. It's the only time that Georgia and Georgia Tech will face each other. Georgia kind of canceled the 3-game series that had been going on for a while, and so now you just have the Spring Classic to benefit Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, the local children's hospital here in Atlanta. And so you played at Truist Park, the home of the Braves, and so it's Georgia Tech. They had to open up the second deck because there was more than 20,000 people there. Just a phenomenal atmosphere, and Georgia Tech was able to knock off Georgia 14-4, run rule victory for Georgia Tech. And that's when you really started to say, this thing can be something special. You knew what you had swept the top 5 Florida State at home. You had gotten so many wins throughout the season. But that's, I think, when people started really buying in on a grand scheme of the casual baseball fans of, whoa, that's a number 3 team in the country of Georgia that you just run ruled. And to be able to do that was pretty impressive from this Georgia Tech ball club. And I think just kind of the overall moment, the overall experience for this team to play in a big league ballpark, to do it in front of over 20,000 people, to do it for the foundation that you're doing it for. And then, oh, by the way, it's your in-state rival. I think that's probably the moment that a lot of people are going to point back to this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Run rule them in 7 innings. Georgia was number 5 in the country at that time. They're now number 3 as they host their own regional just up the road in Athens as they got a whole crop of teams coming to them as well. But you put this in perspective now, Georgia won the SEC regular season. They won the SEC tournament. They run ruled 16 teams en route to doing that. And you guys run ruled them at a big league ballpark with emphasis, 14-4 in 7 innings. So that is certainly a moment that delivered for Georgia Tech. All right, couple of quick hitters with Colin Lacy's wrap up again. Play-by-play voice of Georgia Tech baseball. He and Wiley Ballard will be on the call. If you want to listen to them, georgiatech.leanplayer.com. I don't know what the radio affiliates are, but you feel free to list them off if you've got them top of mind.
Yeah, the biggest one, you can go to ramblinrec.com. You can also get it on the Georgia Tech Game Day app, and then georgiatech.leanplayer.com, and SiriusXM, I think, maybe picking it up this weekend for the ACC side of things. So a lot of different ways.
All right, a lot of different ways to listen to Colin, as well as on the NCAA Baseball Regional Rundown on the free Varsity Network app. Download it 1 p.m. to 11-ish, Friday through Sunday, and then Monday to be determined. But we're coming, folks. We're back, and we're better than ever. And Colin and Wiley will certainly be gracing our ears with their calls of Georgia Tech versus Illinois, Chicago, and then either Oklahoma or Citadel on Saturday. At least we'll see what happens the rest of the way. I've never been to McNeese Ballpark at Russ Chandler Stadium. What is the allure of being there and watching a ball game there?
It's very different this year than it has been in recent history. The backdrop, as I sit in our booth right now looking out at it, you've got the Atlanta skyline past the center field wall. You've got just a beautiful kind of sight line from behind home plate. It's a little bit more of an intimate ballpark. It's not the palatial grandstands. You've got just over 4,000 right around attendance-wise, or capacity-wise, I should say. But it's a team that has sold this ballpark out a ton this year.
9 times.
At the Atlanta Regional, sold out in 30 seconds for the tickets that were allotted here. And so this place has been slammed this year, and it's an absolute crazy atmosphere. They start the Yellow Jackets chant in the ballpark, and the first time it happened was when this place was slammed against the top 5 team in Florida State at the time when we were hosting them. And there were a lot of people that left the ballpark saying that sounds like it's at Bobby Dodd, the football stadium just down the street.
Yeah.
So it's a loud environment. It's a fun environment, and a beautiful ballpark. It's been a lot of fun to call this home.
Man, that's awesome. I want to go, and I won't be able to go this weekend. It's sold out. And for those who cannot attend the regional this weekend, Georgia Tech just announced that there is an official Georgia Tech baseball fan zone HQ this weekend. So if you're a Georgia Tech fan listening to this podcast, which you should be, your guy Colin Lacy is breaking down this team. Get on it if you're not, and tell your friends. You can go to the Georgia Tech baseball fan zone HQ at New Realm Brewing Company on the Atlanta Beltline. That's where the official Georgia Tech fan zone will be this weekend to watch Georgia Tech baseball in the Atlanta Regional. They just announced that today, so I wanted to make sure to shout that out for those folks that can't get to the Atlanta Regional, because that, like many other regionals, is completely sold out. You can maybe get lucky on the secondary market on SeatGeek or others, but those tickets are going for astronomical prices. So if you don't want to pay and give up your entire paycheck to go to a game, you can go to the New Realm Brewing Company and check out Georgia Tech there. They'll have it on the TV. I don't remember the TV channels, but they're out there and they'll have it on there. Even if it's on ESPN Plus, they'll have it out there for you. All right, best concession item at Russ Chandler Stadium.
Ooh. See, the concession stand down the third base line, they've partnered with a local barbecue place. So they've got barbecue nachos. They've got barbecue sandwiches. Those are pretty on point. And as you can tell from my figure, I partake in barbecue from time to time. And so the barbecue nachos. They've also got, starting this year, they have expanded the concourse just because trying to cram a bunch of people in here. They expanded the concourse and have had food trucks right outside, and they have brought in a food truck that does grilled cheeses. Now, bear with me. It's a $15 grilled cheese, which sounds crazy to me. Continue. I couldn't wrap my brain around it.
I'm good.
But it is absolutely phenomenal. You can get one that they put chicken on the inside, and it's a chicken grilled cheese that give you a cup of marinara to make it taste like kind of a chicken parm grilled cheese.
Yeah.
Boys, like that shouldn't be fair. But there's been a couple of grilled cheeses partook in this booth, if you would.
All right, who has eaten more, you or Wiley?
You know, looking at the two of us, you would think it would be me, but Wiley is a sneaky eater. I don't know where it all goes, but I would say probably still me, but Wiley's not far behind.
His metabolism is just better than ours. That's all.
Oh, it's working overtime.
Yeah, and it will give out on him eventually. It will, but not yet. Unfortunately for us, unfortunately for him.
He's the healthy guy too, because I mean he still plays ice hockey. Yeah, so he exercises. He does all of this stuff.
I do too. It doesn't matter. My metabolism gave out on me 8 years ago. It's horrendous. Anyways, those sound amazing. If and when I ever make it to Russ Chandler Stadium, McNeese Ballpark, that will be partaken in. I will pay $30 for 2 different grilled cheeses because gourmet grilled cheeses are to die for. I mean, I've had plenty of them off of various food trucks, and they are tremendous. So, folks, if you're out there this weekend, that's what you got to go do. The barbecue nachos on the third baseline and the food truck outside the stadium. Go get you a gourmet grilled cheese, and then watch Georgia Tech baseball. Have some fun this weekend with Oklahoma, the Citadel, and Illinois, Chicago in town. Colin, hey, man, it's been great to have you on. Really appreciate you coming on, breaking down this team, talking about everything Georgia Tech. Certainly wish you all the best. We will be following. Obviously, we will be listening. We will be airing your call on the NCAA Baseball Regional Rundown, and it's been great to have you on, and good luck this weekend, and hopefully you guys continue to soar all the way to Omaha in the middle of June.
David, appreciate you having me. Appreciate what you guys do, kind of expanding the reach for college baseball and college baseball on the radio. Really appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, buddy. All right, that is Colin Lacy, the play-by-play voice of Georgia Tech baseball. Again, you can catch his call with Wiley Ballard and 45 other baseball radio feeds on the NCAA Baseball Regional Rundown. Just download the free Varsity Network app. It starts Friday, May 29th. If you're listening to this tomorrow, that's today, Friday, May 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern to around 11-ish. We got 46 of the 49 available radio feeds available to us. We'll be airing them all. Myself, a whole bunch of other guys will be giving you wall-to-wall coverage, whip-around coverage of all the local play-by-play feeds. Yeah, there's squeeze play out there, but those are national guys. They don't know the teams as well as these local radio guys do. That's why we do this for you. Red zone style, hometown radio calls. You cannot find it anywhere else, in partnership with the NCAA and Westwood One. And if you're a Women's College World Series fan, guess what? We've got Westwood One's coverage of that too, all weekend long. We got it all. Make sure you turn in NCAA Baseball Regional Rundown. And if you're a Georgia Tech fan and you just want Colin and Wiley, I get it. They're a great team. I listen to them all the time. GeorgiaTech.leadplayer.com, RamblinRec.com, SiriusXM, all that stuff. You can catch them there. We'll say so long for now. Enjoy regional weekend, everybody. We'll be back after regional weekend to preview the Supers when hopefully Georgia Tech is getting set to host their first one since 2006. See you.